Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. So we want to begin the process here of sharing, being able to share our files. So if I right click here and click share, I should have the option to share this file with the general public or specific people. So in order to do that, we have to generate a link to that file. So in order to make a link, we should have at least a unique identifier to each file. Now we could use file IDs, right? Because they're always unique, which is fine. But that is not a good idea when it comes to security. Because let's say we have these files in sequence, right? Let's say I generate a URL where this file, it just says file slash and then we put an ID. So let's say, for example, I have my drive.com like that, and then we do slash, and then maybe we'll put a file extension like file like this, and then maybe this can be I think this would probably be file.php or something, because we are not using any mode rewrites here, so we would have that PHP extension. And then I would put a question there, like so. Or we may not have a PHP extension, it may be something like .html, because still that can still work. And then we put a question mark like that. I think it would be good to maintain what we're already doing. We're using HTML files, so I think we can continue with that. And then let's just put a get variable here. And then the get variable will have something like maybe ID is equal to maybe 45 or something like that, or 45. So this one has a slight problem. This can work just fine. But it has a slight problem because now if there's an ID there, like number 45, I know that there's likely other files that have, there's probably a file number 46 or 47. Just by looking at that, I can guess that there's a file in that line, or there could be a file number 30 like this. Now, whether those files exist or not, the problem is that these numbers are in sequence. And so it means somebody can easily write a script to go through your entire website and download all free files that they are able to get. So they can just write an algorithm to go from ID number 1 to ID number 1000, for example, within a very short period of time, and then catalog all the files that they found there. So they can go, because computers are quite fast, they can even go to 1 million or something and actually catalog all the files that are available for download, and then just run a script to auto download those files or something. So this is not very good security practice. So a better way to do things would be an ID that is very long and completely seemingly random. Like, for example, if I have a URL, excuse me, something like this, right? I can put in here any characters that are URL friendly, for example. So it should also matter whether they are capitalized, single letters, and then we can put some numbers, some letters, and so on. So this is hard to determine what the sequence is. It would be hard to even guess what the next item would be here, because there are so many guesses that can occur. Worse off if this is a random length string as well, with capital letters, small letters, symbols, and numbers. That makes it a lot harder to guess the next one in sequence. So what we want to do now is to create a function that will generate a string like this. Now, to generate that string, you could use some hashing algorithms like MD5 or the one that creates our password, because if you do check in our database of users here, we have this sequence of characters in here that was generated by this password thing. So let me just try to edit one of these so we can see it more clearly. So as you can see, there is a character of sequence of characters that was generated from the word password, right? So this looks nothing like the word password. And so this would be a nice way to do things. But the problem is here you see we have a slash there, which means something completely different when you put it in a URL. So if this is part of the URL, it's going to cause problems, because then the system may think this is a subfolder of this one. So we want something that doesn't include that, and we want to be able to eliminate very specific characters from the list. So it means we have to create the function ourselves. So what we're going to do is create a new column in the drive section that we can add some a unique identifier. So we're just going to call that one a slug. So then we'll do variable character in there, and then what I'm going to do is determine the length of this string. So the longer the string, the more combinations you can have. So if, for example, an ID is let's say you see with numbers we only have 0 to 9 numbers. That's all we have. And an ID like let's see if we do calculate. Big int, for example, in the database has 20 digits. So imagine a 20-digit number like let's see here, 999 something. So if you put nines like this until you get to a 20-digit number, that's quite long, because already here we have a million, billion here, and then trillions just like that. And so you can have a trillion records in there, just with more than a trillion, just with 20-digit numbers. Now numbers are only 0 to 9, so it just means 10 numbers, right? But with letters we have 26 letters, and then on top of that we have small letters and capital letters, so that's 26 by 2, and then we add some numbers in there and so on. So the if you had that kind of combination of numbers, even just 10 of them, that's a huge amount of because the point is we don't want anything to repeat. We don't want this value that we add in this column to ever repeat. So the question is, how many unique strings can you create from it is the question. So it's quite a lot actually. So we're going to limit it to maybe 60 in length like that, because I think 60 we will never exhaust this value there, even if these were just numbers, right? Imagine a digit that is 60 characters long. Just a number that is 60 characters long is really huge, really huge. So even if we were just using numbers by themselves, we would have a big number to deal with. But now we are using numbers, letters, symbols, which means we can even add more uniqueness to it. So we will never exhaust that. We can even put it at 50. I think that's a good round figure. That's good enough. So from there, I'm going to say save, and we can allow a no value since there are already records there. Let me just save there. And then we will need to index this thing so that we can easily read from it when we need to search by slug. Okay, so now that we have a slug, if I go back to browse, of course this will be empty. Now I will need to create slugs for each one of these files. So once a slug is created, it never changes, never edited at all, because that's the key to that specific file. So let's deal with a function now that can create some characters like this. So I'm going to go to API here, because this is all where we will be doing the stuff we're doing. Actually, let me go to functions and create a function from there. So I'm going to say function like that, and then we'll say generate slug. Okay, so we don't need to provide any context or any values to this. We just need it to return a number. So I'm going to just say string is equal to, that's an empty string there, and then at the end of it we return that string. Okay, so here in the middle we'll do stuff to add content to that string. Now instead of just using some kind of algo, we'll create our own. I'm going to say array like that is equal to, and then let's add some content in here. So I'm going to add numbers like this, 0, 1, in fact let me just do 2, 3 to be faster, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't need to put quotes around these since these are numbers. It will still work like that, right? So that's an array up to 9, and then from there now we're gonna say what's this? Let's add alphabetical numbers here. Actually, there's a way to create a range from let's see if we can Google this. PHP range generate alphabet range or something. You can use range function to get all alphabetical characters in an array in PHP. Okay, so that's great. The way to get alphabetical chars in an array in PHP. Okay, range from A to Z. So let's go to Stack Overflow here and see what these guys are talking about. Now, you don't need to do this. You can just type them in there and get a range, I guess. Okay, so we can use, let's see here. I thought somebody was using the range function in here. Excel column range. Okay, so there's range A to Z like that. So that creates that. Okay, that's great. Okay, it's okay, but I think we have more control if we just generate it ourselves. The reason is that that array will create a range from A to Z, but I want an array I can later combine, I guess, range 0 to 9, A to Z, and so on, and then combine them later. Let's see, maybe let's try that out. What I'm going to do is just put that here, and what I want to do, since this is on the API side, I just want to print readable like that, print R, and I'm gonna say range. I want to see low and high, right? Let's say 0 to 9. I just want to see what results I'm gonna get here. So I'm gonna do range A to Z, and then let's do a more capital A to capital Z. So I just want to see what this will bring up. So if I go back here, and I'm just going to go to the console here because the console will show me whatever is going on up there. So I'm going to refresh, and there we go. So we have arrays here. Now this is working because we have that console.log thing active. So there's an array here, 0 to 9, okay, and then there's another array A to Z, and then there's a capital A to capital Z. So it's actually pretty good. What if I put capital Z there, like so? Let me see what happens. Does it know what to do in that case? So I'm just gonna refresh the page. Okay, let's see here. Okay. So it doesn't know what to do, so it just starts A and puts symbols in there, so that's not what we want. Okay, but this works just fine. Then we can combine these arrays and then put some symbols there. So there's a way to combine arrays here by using array merge. So I'm gonna grab these guys here and put them here. So instead of creating an array manually like this, we're going to use PHP. So I'll do this. Let's go here. So this array will be A. That's what I'm going to call it, just for simplicity. And this one will be B. And this one will be C. Like so. Okay. So we have these three arrays that I need merged. So I'm just going to say array, which is my final array, is equal to, I'm going to use a function called array merge to merge all of them. So I'm going to merge A, B, and C, like that. So the final array now has, let me do this instead. So this is the array that we're going to return. Now to add to the array, I can just do array like that, and then add extra stuff to it. So one thing I'll add here is, now I want to add symbols, so I'm going to add an underscore as well, and then just keep adding more symbols that I want. So a dash and an underscore. I think these are the only two symbols that I want in here. You can add a full stop. I think a dot just works just as well in the URL. It doesn't affect anything. A hash doesn't. Maybe an exclamation point. I don't know. But we'll keep it simple. Already the diversity is good here. So in the end, we have an array that has a lot of values. So we can see that by just doing a return of the array, and then let's run this generate slug function like so. And then we do a print R because I know it's going to return an array. So I'm hoping to see one large array here. So let's refresh, and there it is. So this is the array we have. Two symbols there. If you want to add more, you can add more symbols there, but then it has all these values in there. So it starts with 0 to 9, and then A, B, C, D up to Z in small letters, and then A, B, C, D up to Z in capital letters, and two symbols. Okay, so now that we have that array, I want us to pick at random values from that array. So first of all, I need to know the max or the length of the array. So I'm going to say length is equal to count the array. So that's how you get the number of items. So length is, that's the amount of items in the array there. And then now what I want to do, let me put this back to string, right? Like that. Okay. We're returning that string. So now I want to loop through the array a few times. So let's say a for loop in here. So a for loop is like that, and then here I just want to loop like 10 times, right? Or let me say, since the length of our slug is 50, so that's the limit. So I'll put 50 there. Let's loop 50 times, and every time we loop, I want to add to the string. So I'm going to do string dot equals, and then based on I, since we are looping 50 times, I want to get a random value from the array. So I'm just going to say rand to get a random value. Now rand tells you to get a random value between two values. So it's 0 to length, like that, because that's the length of the array. Now the length of the array, keep in mind an array starts at 0, right? So if there are 10 items in the array, it means there's no memory location 10, there's only 9, it's 0 to 9. So we must subtract 1 from the total here in order to make this viable, so that every number we get from here is actually a location in the array. So a random number in that array. So what I'll do now, let me duplicate here. So this one, I'm going to call it key, like that. So say key is equal to random number between there. And then what I'm going to add to this, to the string, is a value from the array based on the key that we've generated. So this will create a 50 character random value based on the items in the array. So let's see it. So I'm going to refresh and empty that and refresh. And this is the value we see here. So this other stuff, what do I do here? Let me do this and say echo. Let me echo a break tag, though I don't know if that will help at all. I'm gonna say print readable break tag, just so we know where the thing is ending from. So I'm gonna refresh. Okay, so there we go. We have a break tag here, but this is the random value I've generated here. So let me see if I grab that. Let me bring it in my text editor and paste it here so we can see it. So this is what was generated. So this is nice and clean. It can work in the URL without a problem. As you can see, it's got numbers and letters and stuff. Capitalized letters, small letters. This is really good. Now the only problem with this is that our characters are, this thing is always going to be 50 characters long, right? Which may be okay, but I think we can add more diversity by reducing it. We can make the length of this random as well, just to increase how many items we can actually put in here, because I could have two of these exactly the same, right? But if I just remove the Y there, then this one and this one are now different. Okay, already we have diversity here. Also, for every reduced length here, that's a unique value by itself. So just varying the length as well helps. So we should have a minimum length at least and a maximum length of 50. So what we're gonna do here is this one will be array length, just so we know what we're talking about here and don't mix things up. Okay, so that's the array length. Now we need another length, string length. What will that be? So the string length will be a random value as well. So let's make a random value. We know the maximum is 50 because that's how long our slug is, but then we should have a minimum value. So a minimum value maybe could be 10. So 10 characters as a minimum value and 50 as the maximum. Okay, that way we don't have a key that is 2 characters long, right? So string length here in this case will vary, and the string length will determine how many times we loop. Actually, if we put this at 50, that's actually 49. So unless, no, actually that's 50 times, because 0 to 50 less than 49, 0 to 49 is 50. So this is good enough. Okay, so that's great. Our string length is variable now, which is nice. So if we monitor and run this twice, let's see what happens. If I run it once, I get this value. Okay, copy, then delete. So this is the first result I got. So let me do that, and then let me run it again just to see the next value I get. And I grab that and put it here. So I just want to see if the length is variable. So as you can see, the length changes as well, and these are 2 very unique values right there. Now, even though these values are unique, and we know at this point it would be hard to repeat one value from another, we still need to check in the database to know whether that one exists or not before trying to use it. Okay, so with that in mind, I think our generator is ready. So now this can generate a slug. So for now, what I want to do is just generate slugs for the current items in the database. So get drive space, right? So let's try and run a function here right now. So I'm going to grab this. So we'll run this once. I just want to generate slugs for every item in the database. So I will do generate slug. So here, okay, wait a minute. So I'll run a query and select everything from the database. So select all from my drive. We don't have a where clause. We want to get everything. So rows is going to be query. So if rows is true, then let's do a loop over here. So I'm going to do for each of those rows. We're going to get one row at a time. So the only thing I want from the row is the ID, so I can actually run a different query. So I'm going to run query is equal to and say update my drive, and then we say set slug is equal to, and we're going to put a slug there. So I'm going to do slug where ID is equal to, and we'll create an ID and say limit 1, because we'll be editing one at a time. And then let's run that query using the query variable like so. Okay, so we're looping through and updating the slug and the ID. So let's generate the slug here. So the slug should be different for every row, so we have to generate it within the loop. So I'm going to say slug is equal to and say generate slug like that. Okay, cool. I know none of these will repeat over this small number of records, so there's no need to check if one already exists that is like the one we're putting here. Then we need an ID as well, so I'm going to say ID is equal to row, the current row ID, like that. Now yeah, actually this works just fine. So if everything goes well, I'm supposed to have slugs over here. So I'm going to click to refresh to see that there's nothing, and then we just run refresh once. And then if I go back here and click browse, I have slugs now. So there we go. So as you can see, their lengths are very variable here, so you know they're very unique. Even if the length were the same, they would probably be unique every time. So we have slugs there, which is good. So this whole function here is now irrelevant. So let's remove that. The only thing we need to do now is every time we add a new record, we should include a slug. So let's see here. We have generate slug. Let's go to the api.php here. And let's see where we are doing adding a file. So upload files is right here. So when we upload a file, we do add content to, so insert, this is what we want right there. I need to include a slug. So I'm going to say slug is equal to generate slug like that. So once we have that, now we can go to the columns, because the columns are here right at the end. It doesn't matter where we add this. I'm going to put slug as part of the columns we need to include. And then since I've added it to the end here, I have to add it to the end there as well to put the actual value, because that's the column name. And let's put slug as the value over there. All right. So that does it. So let's try and add one more file and see if it will come with a slug. So we are here on my drive. I'll move away from the console, and I just want to drag and drop a file. So in fact, let me just click there. So one of these images, I'm just gonna click on this one and open. upload complete. And where is it? This one right there. Okay, so it's an image JPEG. That's the latest file. Okay, so if we go to our table, there is the new record. It's a JPEG, and as you can see, it has a unique slug. Now we need to be able to read by slug here, okay, from the table once we load the file. Now the other thing is we need another item here called preview, so that we can preview the item in here. So let's add that real quick. I'm gonna go to index.html. I'm looking for where we have our submenu, and right before download, right at the top here, I will duplicate this. So table.download file, I'll change this to preview file. We don't have that function yet, but we'll create it. And we have JS download button. This one is JS preview button. Let me change all these to preview so that it's unique to this one. And there's this, wait, this was the wrong thing to change. What I want here is a search. This is the icon, so I'm gonna do search like that. Hopefully there's an icon like that. Oh wait, I'm changing the wrong thing here. I wanted preview at the top there, so I'm gonna say preview. Actually, let me put an I there. I like so. So preview. So let me reload the file. Right click. Now we have preview there. So that's great. Now let me just move it to the top like that. So to move line by line, I'm using Control Shift up arrow. Like so. Okay, so let me refresh, just swapping the order. Preview, very nice. Now preview should not be on the folders here, but who knows, maybe we can leave it there. All right, so now we'll be able to preview because each item has a unique slug. So now we need to design an actual page for the preview. That will be the preview page, so that the user doesn't see all of this while they're previewing. Let's say you share this to the general public, somebody can easily open it and preview it without having to see your entire drive. All right, so we'll do that in the next video.